evening and welcome to the India Development Debate. I'll be your host, Nayantara, for the next 60 minutes. Ratan Tata versus Cyrus Mistry. That remains our top focus here on ET Now. Here's the latest development. The government has impleaded itself in the saga. It's been done so by the ROC, the Registrar of Companies, whose action to classify Tata Sons as a private company was termed as illegal by the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal last week in its judgment on the Tata Mistry dispute. That was on 18th of December, this verdict. The ROC today moved to court. The ROC wants the word illegal to be removed from the judgment. Joining me on Skype all the way from Belgium is now Dr. Nirmalya Kumar. He has worked at the Tata Group. He was seen as part of the Cyrus Mistry camp. He was part, in fact, of the executive committee reporting to Cyrus Mistry. Nirmalya Kumar was removed the same day as Cyrus Mistry. Since then, he has publicly documented the day leading to that. He's written a lot about it. So keep that in mind as I interview. Nirmalya Kumar was part of the Cyrus Mistry camp. He's now joining us all the way from Belgium on Skype. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on this edition of the India Development Debate. You've been watching this entire saga, the Tata versus Mistry Saga, ever since it's broken out. We've been coming to you time and again for the ramifications it's going to have on doing business in the country, what it means for Indian conglomerates. So if I could get your initial reaction on the verdict. I know we got it from you within minutes of the day the verdict was pronounced, but now we've all had a weekend to digest what it is that the NCLT has had to say. Beyond the sensational headline of Cyrus Mistry being reinstated as the executive chairman, this is one verdict which is going to have huge ramifications for India Inc.
Yes, so the reinstatement of Cyrus Mistry is the one that has gotten all the headline news, as you said. But that's really not the important factor, because Cyrus was never fighting for himself to be reinstated as the chairman of Tata Sons. He was saying it was illegal how he was fired, but his battle was not for reinstatement. His battle instead was that minority rights and corporate governance at the Tata Group should be improved, because Tata is a bellwether group for India. It's the image of India. So if we don't have great corporate governance at the Tata Group, and we don't have great corporate governance in corporate India, especially in a company like Tata Group, then it doesn't really, send a good signal to investors anywhere in the world who are going to be minority investors in Indian companies. So really his battle was, how do we improve corporate governance at Tata Group, because it's the most important group at some level in India. And secondly, as a result of this, also improve corporate governance in general in India for minority shareholders.
And we're also talking on the day where the government has impleaded itself in the Ratan Tata versus Cyrus Mistry case. It has filed for to be impleaded. It's been done so by the ROC. It wants the part of the conversion, what you just touched upon as well, of Tata Sons being converted from private to public to not be called illegal. Nirmalya Kumar, why is this so important?
So a public company in India and anywhere in the world affords greater protection to minority rights than does a private company. So the reason that the Tata Group converted from a public to a private company immediately after the aftermath of this, and it was rushed through without probably following the complete process that is required, was because they wanted to squeeze the Shapurjis and the Mistry Group out of their minority rights. And so basically, this conversion was illegal. It was done hurriedly, and it was done solely for the purpose of squeezing the 18% shareholding of the Shapurji Palanji Group.
But I also want to ask you this point. The ROC, while impleading, saying that it must be impleaded because it never got a chance to present its arguments, but certain affidavits filed at the NCLT and the NCLT do show that that has not been the case as far as the Cyrus Mistry camp goes. In fact, they have gone on to say how the entire conversion had been hurried. The reason I'm asking you this is because while the government has been saying it has no role to play in a private dispute, is that indeed the case?
I don't want to get into that part, because that requires you to get into a lot of legalities and details for which I'm not an expert. The fact of the matter is, your point is well taken, that suddenly they're saying they want to be removed from this situation, where earlier when they had their opportunities, they did not get themselves removed.
Okay. I have to try right? I have to ask you
Yeah,
this question.
please.
So,
No, it's your job as a journalist.
I have to ask you that question. Okay, now the verdict is also so important because the same conversation we were having for minority shareholder rights. After the Cyrus Mistry Ratan Tata verdict, how does life change for minority shareholders? How are they now more empowered?
So in a sense, on paper, nothing has really changed, except that it shows that minority shareholders can go to the NCLAT and get redress. So there is but you have to remember the problem here is very simple. The problem is that someone like a Cyrus Mistry, someone like the Shapoorji Group, with the amount of resources they have under their control, can fight for their minority rights. But most Indian minority shareholders do not have the kind of resources to fight for those minority rights and go into 3-year battles and 6-year battles if it goes into an appeal into the Supreme Court. And the amount of resources required to fight this battle for minority shareholders, only a Shapoorji Group can afford that. Most minority shareholders cannot afford that. So we still are left with the problem, even after this verdict, of how do you protect the right of minority shareholders who do not have the vast resources of a Shapoorji Group.
But Professor Kumar, if I were to go beyond, what you and I were just talking about, that sensational headline of how Cyrus Mistry must be reinstated as the executive chairman of Tata Sons, my question to you, and of course I'm playing devil's advocate here as well, has Cyrus Mistry indeed won at the NCLAT? He never wanted to any longer be the chairman. That was initially the prayer, but then so far it had been abandoned. He is only going to get directorship on Tata Sons despite that 18% shareholding for the balanced tenure. The verdict is silent on a nominee directorship, which is something that Cyrus Mistry had been seeking. How is this a win for Cyrus Mistry if his board seat with an 18% stake is not guaranteed?
So Cyrus Mistry did not launch this course for a win for himself. He launched this case because he wanted to improve the corporate governance at Tata Sons. If because of this verdict, the corporate governance at Tata Sons improves, if because of this verdict, they have to reconvert back into a public company because their conversion into the private company is held illegal and not operable, that is the victory. You see, the victory was never for Cyrus Mistry. He was not fighting for himself. He was fighting for better corporate governance at Tata Group. So if this advances the role of corporate governance, if this enhances the corporate governance of the Tata Group, even by a little bit, he's better off. And the country is better off, and minority shareholders all across India are better off. You see, this was never a victory. This was never a battle for Cyrus Mistry to get his directorship back, to get his chairmanship back. He was not fighting for that. He was just fighting that don't squeeze minority shareholders and do respect their rights. And to the extent this verdict does that, it's a victory. But the victory is not for a personal self. The victory is for minority shareholders.
But after the verdict, he has said he's been personally vindicated. Where he has also been the head of Tata Sons, and we didn't see corporate governance improve. In fact, the NCLAT verdict has a lot to say as far as the corporate governance issues go. I'm just going to come to that. But for the benefit of our viewers, because Cyrus Mistry gets to be a director at Tata Sons for the balanced tenure, we don't know what that balance is yet. Would I be correct in reading this as round one, where Cyrus Mistry gets to first protect his shares? He's no longer being squeezed out. That has been stopped. He gets to retain his shareholding. That was, of course, the first big fight.
Yes, so again, there may be many rounds before and after. The vindication part is very simple. What this court has said, what was done on October 2016 was illegal, against process, and did not follow the norms that should be followed in protecting minority rights in any company that believes in corporate governance. And so the vindication is at that level, that somebody other than yourself has now agreed, who has read the letter of the law, followed the letter of the law, and now declared in a verdict that what was done was not right, both in terms of suppressing minority rights, both in terms of fighting him, and in terms of, more importantly, saying that Ratan Tata was involving himself in the decisions of Tata Group against the processes that have been put in place, and that he should try to step away from the Tata Sons board and let his nominee directors do whatever they want to do, rather than inject himself into the proceedings. So in some sense, that was the vindication that he has found in this verdict, is that he was right, as he had claimed, that he was let go without due process and illegally. He was right in saying that minority rights were suppressed, and he was right in saying that Ratan Tata was interfering too much. The other vindication has happened because in the 3 years, the 5 hotspots that were there are still the 5 hotspots for the Tata Group. The performance of the Tata Group is still woeful in terms of return on capital employed, except for the TCS Group, pretty much. So, whatever he had said in that the telecoms need to be fixed, had to be fixed. He said the Nano needs to be closed down. It has pretty much been closed down operationally as far as we are concerned. And that the British Steel problem is still a problem of course. That problem still remains, which they're still trying to solve. So whatever problems he said he was trying to fix, those problems still remain today.
Because, you're still going to have other non-Tata shareholders. How will they be okay with Cyrus Mistry being on board? And I think it's only natural and an educated guess, and Tatas have been saying it, that they will in fact be appealing the Supreme Court, that they're shocked that the NCLAT has actually done an overreach and given more to Cyrus Mistry than what he himself had been asking for. Nirmalya, Kumar, as I come to the end of this interview, Ratan Tata has been one of India's most celebrated industrialists. He's been one of the best brand ambassadors for the Tata Group as well. But once again, I will play devil's advocate here. The NCLAT has not been very kind to the way he was running the group. They've had to say some rather harsh things on corporate governance. What did you make of that?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, there is a public image of Ratan Tata, which seems to have been a little bit destroyed by this NCLAT. But, it's not the first time. The Neera Radia tapes are more than a decade old now. So it's not like it's the first time you've heard about Ratan Tata and what he does, despite whatever the public image may be. And God bless him, he has a great public image, which, by the way, we were respectfully keeping in place because, as you said, he was the brand ambassador for the Tata Group. And so to some extent, him having a good brand image would help us in the Tata Group when we were there. And we were very respectful of that. And we tried to keep it, whatever came out in the Neera Radia tapes, keep it quiet. So in a sense, you're right. He is the brand ambassador for the Tata Group, and any impact negative on him also has a negative impact, unfortunately, on the Tata Group, which has 700,000 people who are working very hard every day with great values and great ethics to keep the flagship of the Tata Group. So in some sense, I feel a bit sad for those 700,000 people because they are doing their best every single day to keep the flag of Tata Group and to keep the ethical, moral compass of Tata Group in place. And it's a bit unfortunate that Ratan Tata himself is the one undermining it.
So, if all of this has been going on at the Tata Group, which is, one of the largest conglomerates that we have in the country, what is the signal that is going out as well to the investor community, especially after what's happened at this verdict and what it has to speak about minority shareholders? So that is the latest that we have, and one of the most respected views you have from a person who's been tracking the entire saga.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.